Hello dear World of Warcraft friends, as of yesterday, the next talent point for the Omniumfolio, the Omniumfoliant, is available. In this video, I'll show you what you need to do to get the talent point this week. We'll also take another look to see if anything has changed with the talents, like what the best talents are, how to choose them, and how much extra damage you can expect at this point. I'll summarize all of that for you in this video. If you want to support me, feel free to leave a like and subscribe, and with that, let's get started. Grundsätzlich, basically, and this is pretty simple, keep in mind again, it's possible that the quest, well, actually the quest is up here again. If you don't look up here, you won't see the quest marked on the map, so keep that in mind. Remember that if you're wondering why you didn't get the quest, otherwise, you can also select it again here through your adventure guide. If you haven't done the quest, it will be shown here. That's how you pick it up. This week, you need to complete Void Assaults. In the end, there are 5 cores, or coalescence as they're called, that you need to collect. You get these when you complete Void Assaults. Specifically, you need 5 of them. So, each completed assault gives you 1 point. This week, the assaults are taking place in Suleiman, so don't be surprised. Since I was away on business the last few days, I had to record the video on Tuesday night. These are the details I've seen on the US server. What you're ultimately looking for is, you go to Suleiman, and since you've never done these before, these are the little circles with the skull inside. Lore assaults. You get a bit of gold and so on after each completion, but what's important for the quest is this Dark Lake Coalescence. What's important at this point, at least that's how it was on the US servers, there was an assault on the US servers which were bugged. This is here in Armani Sar, and you have to kill 3 of those captain mobs. These things were bugged. At least up until the point when I recorded this video. And in the end it makes it so that they don't drop their immunity shield. The only way you can do that is by pulling them away from their spawn position. So, to kite them away. And then no one should be standing next to them. Then he probably drops the shield. So it's really absolutely weird. It's quite possible that this whole thing will be fixed by then, but if this assault is open and it hasn't been changed, then you really have to try to kite them away here so that they basically reset and don't immediately get back into combat. Then they'll probably drop their shield. Just a little tip at this point. Then, once you've done all that, you can turn in the quest. Of course, right here again, up on the island of Keldanas. And then you'll get your next Omnium research particle. There's really not much more to say about it this week. Because Rune of Resonance is the only option you can choose here. So, unlike in previous weeks where you at least had a choice, that's not possible this time. The effect? Your core rune deals an additional 2,745 cosmic damage to enemies over 8 seconds or heals allies for an additional 5,763. Your core rune now prioritizes targets that are not affected by your Rune of Resonance. That means in this case, when it triggers, for example, on the mob up front, and then this DOT is applied to it, and the effect is triggered again, does the game make sure that it's triggered on a different target so that ideally you have more DOTs on more targets? But let's assume a single target scenario for now, and in the end, the damage gain you get from this is relatively easy to calculate, because it deals exactly as much damage as this rune itself. That means the damage or healing you get from it is doubled. In this case, we can see here, at the point where I tested it a bit, this rune did a hefty 54,000 damage. That means next time it would be 108,000, and we'd have a DPS gain of about 500 from that. So you can also see that here in the table. So the rune gives me 492 DPS, so almost 500. If you double that, it would be another 500, and then we'd be at 1,000. Accordingly, yeah, it's not a huge DPS boost again this week either. That actually only comes with next week. So as soon as you can choose one of these talents here, you can simply say, of course, you take the stat that's best for you, and then every time your rune procs here on slot 1, you get 78 secondary stats. In this case, here with 700 or almost 780 mastery, I get 23% more damage. With Owl Mastery, if it fully procs, my spells would likely deal about 2% more damage during that period. So, from everything I've seen so far, this is the biggest DPS gain you can get. And then down here in this row, we'll make another video about it when the time comes. I haven't seen anything reliable yet about what you should pick there. But I think all in all, at least those two are very, very similar. Because either this does 100% more damage, or that one does. But both just do exactly the same amount of damage. Probably this one here, Rune of Overload, is better because the damage is done instantly. With this Rune of Reverberation, you could theoretically lose the damage if, for example, a mob dies before the full 8 seconds have ticked through. That's why I would assume that this one is a bit stronger, but for me, Rune of Echoes is still unclear. I'm not sure how it works. Regarding the first rune you take, again, there is very, very little information about it. I also watched some other videos about it. And in this case, as most people really say, you actually go for this Rune of Unleashed Fire. Because it's mainly difficult to attract more things from these orbs. So in single target fights, in raids, and so on, you usually always take the Rune of Unleashed Fire. I've seen different things with healers, so I'm mainly referring to tanks and DPS. Because even as a tank, you want to get the most damage out of it. The exception would probably be for healers and in pure Mythic Plus runs. So, in other words, if you run a bit longer, you can definitely pick up more than one orb. This one could be worth it, but as I said, it's super difficult to find reasonable and reliable sims for that. And I personally didn't have much time to test this against different specs and so on. I was using the Rune of Unleashed Fire here, except for the first 2 days. And honestly, it doesn't do that much damage either way. But if you're in the fight the whole time and can maintain high uptime, it will reliably trigger. And that seems like the best option to me. Yeah, so thank you. That's it for this video. I hope I was able to help you at least a little bit with this. As soon as there are, I don't know, more detailed infos about it, I'll of course keep you updated. And with that, thank you, see you in the next video, and take care.